Hello everybody, this is Dr. and the Oracle back for another reading. This video is about the DM. Thought it was going to be about the DF, but I guess the next video will be about the DF. So we're going to commune and see what's going on with DM. First, let's clear some of this energy out. So I just came back from working out, and that always shakes my energy up just a little bit. Exercise is exercise, and you exercise your demons when you exercise. So just clear this space, clear my space, and clear you guys. And of course, cleans my whole area of deck section. Okay. We'll just sit that there for a second. Light our candle. And let's see what's going on around here. I've come to discover that I have a great many decks that I can use at any given time. And in this discovery, I have realized that that is also true of people. When you have friendships and relationships, you basically collect people that you can throw out there at any given time for assistance and help and encouragement and support. And if those people don't serve in that way, then you've collected duds and you need to empty those out. Not to say that you should collect people to use. It's to say if the people in your life do not serve purposes in your life, then they should be removed, excommunicated, to the left, Don't know why I said that, but I guess that's the current energy going on with the DM. The DM is learning that fact. Ever so haphazardly. So let us dive into the maps deck first. See what's going on with the DM and the enchanted map first. I want this one. I also want this one. For those of you who are new, I'm Dr. and the Oracle. I specialize in self-care, sex, and shadow work. These are my shadow cards. So when I pull these out, that's what I'm looking for. Shadow stuff. This is my Enchanted Love Tarot deck. And something in here is calling. So we're going to pull this deck out. I haven't pulled this deck out in a while. Which is a good thing. A lot of my people aren't having love issues, they're having other issues. But something's coming up for the DM here, which makes this necessary. So let's first look at what came from the top of the deck versus the bottom. But in this case, the bottom will be the top will be the bottom. Why that's important, I'm not sure yet. So let's just flip them all over here. I'm hearing what's last will be first. So this is what the DM tried to put at the back of his mind. Also, if you're new, I use he to refer to the divine masculine, she to refer to the divine feminine. The divine masculine can be male, female, non-binary. Same for divine feminine. It's just to differentiate from the energies. He, here, being the divine masculine, has placed what was last first, what was first last. Or at least that's the energy he's coming into right now, of placing those things as last. So, to begin with, the divine masculine was heavily, this is past energy, heavily focused on direction. But this direction was not necessarily life direction, it was more so business direction. Where he wanted to take his business to, where he wanted to get his money from, what his next move was going to be, but mostly in the material world. He wasn't giving much attention to spirit of place, the spiritual realm. He was deviated from that for some reason, okay? His compass, he was trying to orient north without having any idea what north was. And the north, for the compass, is the direction of higher power. Higher power being the spiritual realm. He was not occupied with spiritual realm. He was operating in the material realm, operating in what he could see, hear, feel that made sense tangibly in his world with the little knowledge that he did have. That sparked this envious gluttony. He was looking at other people, seeing what other people have, seeing what other people had going on to determine what it is that he wants. Right? Right. That's what that was. So his direction was misguided. So really this compass for him, even though it's supposed to point north, was really pointing here. And it sparked this. And this visionary that he thought he was went here. And what happened was his light went out. That fire, that burning passion, that confidence that he had in everything material, but wouldn't waste it on anything that was not material, it went out. He's supposed to be the visionary. He's supposed to see the vision. He's supposed to know how to manifest these things into reality, but he did not. So I'll just read directly from the book on this one for the visionary. There's a message in here somewhere from the book. Okay, let me see. Green. Green is also heart chakra. So his vision may have been clouded because he was not in his heart space. King of Shells, the visionary. The King of Shells upright seems younger than his years. He's creative, balanced, engaged, and this approach to life and love has staved the ravages of age that afflict those less in harmony with the divine forces we see swirling around his head. He is a Renaissance man, inventor, accomplished artist, and well-read scholar. His gaze is direct and friendly, but he is no fool. He is a sensitive and psychic. He is this as many of his family and more than any of his family. And he uses this tool as one of many for enlightened rule of his kingdom. His psychic gifts are second nature to him. He is a true visionary who reads people and omens as well as he uses his creative powers to realize his visions. He is a counselor of counselors. You will soon meet or could be called upon to emulate the qualities of a person like the King of Shells upright. You need to understand why strong feelings have surfaced and how to cope with them. Do not repress your feelings. View your work as art and your art as a work of life. A time to experience a deep, long-lasting love and contentment approaches. Learn what gifts you have to give as lover, parent, counselor, and friend. Give advice only to those you know are ready to hear it and to act on it, and study the teachings of a favorite spiritual master or philosopher. Visualize the true love you seek and you will realize it. All of that only works if you're operating from a place of love. He was not operating from a place of love. He was operating from a place of material gain. He was operating from a direction that was so beyond what it was that he was supposed to be doing. His forward sight was clouded, which almost tilted him on his head, because these spiritual forces that back him are behind him, he left them behind. He did not use them to his advantage. He did not use his creative energies. He did not use his creative powers. And in doing so, he turned his gifts on its head, because he was misguided. The people that he trusted to tell him when he was off course, when his compass was not facing north, when he could stand to do better in spirit of place, they failed him. They failed him not because it was intentional. They failed him because it was never a requirement. It was never a requirement in the relationship. He never set that boundary. He just expected it to happen. He had unrealistic expectations of these people, that they would be there for these things that he thought they would be there for, without telling them that this is what he needed them for. This inspired this envious gluttony. Therefore, he put BF on the back burner. He may have turned her away irrationally, reproached her even in a malicious manner, not meaning it maliciously, but he turned away from her and turned towards carnage, because that is all that he knew to do. That is where his compass was pointing him, and that is the vision that he had. In order to have everything, he had to be gluttonous. In order to have everything, he had to reach out for that which others had. He had to take the blueprint from other people. He looked to see what other people were doing and tried to find other ways that he could do it, to monopolize off of it and capitalize off of it, not understanding those people had what they had because they were living in their truth and in their passions. He's not living in his truth and in his passions. That is why this is envious. Envy is gluttony, because even if he got all of the riches that they had, it would not fulfill him in the same way that he sees them to be fulfilled. And therefore, it has sparked this new realization that this now needs to be put behind, and this needs to come in at the forefront. Spirit of place. Spirit itself. Spiritual living. Being authentic. To turn this compass here to become his authentic self, to focus on his spiritual being, to focus on his spiritual uprising. So in doing so, he had to adopt a new philosophy. This new philosophy put him in a place where he had to understand why everything was useful around him. He had to understand how to be a visionary, but in a different way. He had to understand how to use his gifts of discernment for good. And this peaceful amongst thorns is understanding the balance that spirit can't solve all material world things, and material can't solve all spiritual world things. He had to learn that. This is a card of balance. He is learning balance. Here he was stuck squarely in the material realm. Squarely material, squarely material, squarely 3D, not understanding how spiritual came into play to be able to make his visions come true. That's when he came to this crossroads, this Two of Roses, understanding that he had to choose. For some of this points to karmic relationship versus his divine relationship, understanding that he had to choose whether he wanted to be happy or if he wanted to appease the masses. So let's look at this Two of Roses and see what it says. Two of Roses. Things are at a crossroads, but you're in a position of power. You can make, break, or even take a relationship away from someone. But take a time out before you act. Planning is more important than taking action right now. Contemplate where you are, where you've been, where you want to go, and with whom. That with whom is important. Someone feels two ways about his or her partner, or may think he or she is in love with two different people. See, that I was feeling that. Karmic versus the divine masculine and the divine feminine relationship. Choosing between those two can be tough because many karmics can be divine feminines, but they're divine feminines with the wrong divine masculine, and vice versa. That is where we get this energy of this crossroads. Which relationship is worth salvaging is which one is not. He's not exactly sure because he's not sure which one of these relationships has his divine feminine and which one of these relationships is a karmic. Which one of these relationships is going to flourish and which one isn't. Which one does he truly love and which one is he forcing himself to love? Which one is giving him an illusion of love? Which one is feeding him what he thought love was and now is coming to the understanding of what love really is, has to then neglect his former thoughts on what love was. He has to figure this out. Choosing between two different people, if that's you, don't decide now. Keep both relationships going. Prepare for intimate conversations about commitment and sexual relations, and you won't be worried about unintended consequences. He has to talk. Divine masculine has to talk. That's really what this comes down to. In order for him to have what he wants, he has to talk it through with himself. He has to talk it through with these two potential partners. Two potential partners being the karmic relationship and the divine feminine relationship. And he hasn't been able to make a choice. He hasn't been able to move forward. He hasn't been able to master spirit of place, the spiritual realm, in a way that helps him move forward as the visionary that he wants to be, because he's at this crossroad, but he refuses to talk to the divine feminine because in his mindset in the former world, the divine feminine was the problem. The divine feminine was the issue. The divine feminine is what was holding him back. Not understanding that the divine feminine was trying to show him a way to do things better. The divine feminine was sending him signals and synchronicities to show him a way to do things better, to show him a way that he can turn his compass back in the north facing direction, show him a way that he can have everything that he wants, but just in a way that's more balanced and in a way that uses his passions for the right thing, trying to show him that he was the visionary and that he would know exactly what the right choice was if he used his creative passions, used his creative powers, used the energy of those manifested around him to actually engage in making a decision that would actually be right for him. Instead, he chose, and it was a choice, he chose to isolate himself. He chose to isolate himself from the divine feminine in a way that they were no longer in communication. Usually it's the divine feminine that keeps up the communication, because even though the divine masculine poofs, the divine feminine never actually poofs. The divine feminine usually sticks around in some way, shape, or form because she understands that she can be a guiding light for her divine masculine. Here, we're seeing that she poofed. She may have made a grandeur statement before she left, but she poofed, which is making this decision even harder because it created this type of hole within the divine masculine, and it created this sense of urgency where he has to make this decision right now or else he will lose the divine feminine. That is his feelings. Everything feels rapid progress right now, urgency. That's how he's feeling right now. He has to make this decision right now, but he does not have to make the decision right now. What needs to happen right now is he needs to get his ducks in a row. By ducks in a row is not necessarily the material world, it's his spiritual world. His spiritual world is in disarray. His spiritual world is in chaos because he was not facing his spiritual world. He left it there unattended. And now he has to pour his love and energy back into himself because it's usually the divine feminine that comes along to refill his cup for him. He has not learned to refill his cup on his own. So this is his time to learn to replenish his cup on his own. And then after he replenishes his cup on his own, he can see that what the karmic poured in versus what the divine feminine poured in were two very different things. And that is what will be able to come in and help him to make this decision. Because Any substance can be fatal and deadly if it does not mesh well with what's already in your body. Medicines that can be good for you, herbs that can be good for you, can become toxic to you when you mix them with the wrong things. Peroxide is wonderful for treating a lot of things, but when poured and come into a different substance and poured into certain substances, it's toxic. So the divine masculine may have a peroxide body, a peroxide cup, if you will, and the karmic could be pouring in ammonia, which will be toxic to his cup and toxic to his body and toxic to his situation. But her divine masculine may have an ammonia body, so her pouring in that ammonia into his cup will help him to flourish and be full. There's a difference in what's being poured into the cup. It's a difference to how it's being tolerated by the body. It's the difference to how it's being tolerated by the soul. It's the difference between life and death for this divine masculine if he does not get it together. And if he continues to allow someone to pour into his cup that has the wrong liquid for his cup. But he has to ask those questions about the properties of what she's pouring in, the connection to what she's pouring in, if she even knows what she's pouring in or that she's pouring. All of these things he has to ask. And those come into the play of, what are your intentions? What are your intentions for this relationship? What are your intentions for your life? What are your intentions for your future? Do you even love me? Or do you just love that I'm stable and I'm here and I'm always going to be there for you? Do you love that you can control me? Do you love that you can tell me what to do? Do you love the idea of love and not the idea of me being with me? He has to ask all of these questions and come to these realizations on his own in order to make this decision that seems to the divine feminine that it should just be an easy decision, but it's not an easy decision for someone who truly does not have the capability to make this decision, has never had to ask these hard-hitting questions, has never been in the position where he has to make a choice, has never been in the position where this could be life or death for him. Love, light, and blessings to you, and I'll see you in a future video.